Greetings! I have my presentation for what works for Mr. Mack. It's a low-tech, readily accessible method of using alternative communications without using BoardMaker. A lot of times we've heard about PEX, which is a Picture Exchange Communication System. It uses a program called BoardMaker, which is store-bought and expensive. Even on Amazon or eBay, it's at least $100 for a used one, and that's with all the software. On Etsy, they're selling it for 130 of the most commonly used PEX squares. 130 of them for about 10 cents a piece. So you end up still spending some money just to have what a student with autism would need. The communication system that you're using works very well because you could point at it, and once you've pointed at it, then you can say, this is what needs to happen next, this is what needs to happen now, and it's as though worlds will collide if that doesn't happen. And students who are really visual, such as students with autism, really use it well. As a matter of fact, having it in your classroom is one of those things to where you must. It's one of the top commands. Thou shalt have a visual schedule. And if you don't, you're going to pay. So this is what works for Mr. Mack. And here's what works. Especially in special needs classrooms, structure is critical. It is absolutely necessary. If you don't have it, don't pass go, don't collect $200 because you will suffer. So, I've learned these things the hard way, as is mentioned on my PowerPoint. Now, when you use the PEX, they are expensive. I'm going to show you how to use Google Docs. Google Docs is nice because it's free, it's already on your computer, and wherever you go, if you're typing on one computer and you decide to go to another computer and you type some more, it's still there. As a matter of fact, I could type on this computer and then I can go to this computer right here and still continue to type. And as I do so, it modifies, it updates, and if I want to print it out, all I've got to do is connect it to my $40 printer. That's still cheaper than that BoardMaker system. So what I was wanting to do is show you how I use it. First, you open a new document, and you can continue to use the PowerPoint. It's even got some pictures on how to do it. I've got some cool videos on how to do it as well. And when you use this, it allows you to update, modify, and change the schedules. How I've used it, even for my parents, or the parents of my students rather, is when they are having a difficulty or struggling at home. Let's say a child doesn't want to go to bed at a certain time, they don't want to put their pants on, they're having toileting problems, they're not eating right, or they're only eating lead-based paint or other items, or they hoard food. You could just make a rule and they are not going to follow it. But if you make a schedule that says this is what's happening next, this is what's happening now it's time to go to bed. First of all, you brush your teeth, you take your clothes off, you put your pajamas on, you get into bed, you go to sleep. Those things work. Parents love it. They think it's some sort of miracle system, and all you've really done is taken what you're doing in school, transferring it to home, so that there's no place where that schedule isn't followed. The nice thing about it is once you've done that, you have created peace and tranquility in the home, and the parents view you as their savior. So it's worked on at least 3 occasions where a parent will love the fact that you're helping them out in the home. And that system then reinforces itself time and time again, so that what you're doing is allowing that child to continue to progress, to continue to get that academic environment, and he's thriving on that structure. So it's a win-win for everyone. So that's what I do with this. The video, or the PowerPoint, which is created with a Google Doc, shows you exactly how to do that thing, avoiding the high expense and doing it correctly, so that you can have Google Docs versions of the completed schedule. I'll show you what the completed schedule looks like because I've got it right here, again, on my saved Google Drive. I go to Google Docs. I go to Anthony V's schedule. And this schedule will work just fine for Anthony. He will sit down. He will go to the bathroom. He will eat his lunch. He will start writing. All because the schedule says to. Even though if I come up with rules, he'll follow them because the schedule says so. Not because Mr. Mack says so, but because the schedule says so. That's the nice thing about it. Whatever you say goes because you wrote it down. And it does prevent you from having to say it as often. You don't have to go, Anthony, sit down, Anthony, sit down, Anthony, sit down. Because Anthony sat down because the sign says, Anthony, you have to sit down. That's what a visual schedule does, and that's the miraculous aspect of using PEX or the cheap version, which is Google Docs. That's what I wanted to tell you. Thanks.